Could the Big Ten and the SEC actually be getting this new structure thing right? Well, they're putting a CEO in charge, but who exactly?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, craziest sport on planet Earth. I've got a sleeper team in the Big Ten. Sleeper team, not just in the Big Ten, but for the college football playoff. And Notre Dame's going to play Wisconsin next year. But what about USC? That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, Pete Thamel is a good piece over at ESPN. He's had many of those over the years, discussing the idea of a CEO in college football. Now, what he has written is that this is such an advanced concept that they're awaiting, they being the four power conferences, which is something that the Big Ten and SEC deserve some credit for. I'll explain that in a moment. They are so convinced the House settlement is going to come down in a certain fashion. They have already begun the process of vetting candidates to be a CEO of college football, a commissioner, basically, of college football. CEO is the word that kept getting thrown around. Names that popped into my head because there were none listed. And I tell you what, those folks should be working for the CIA if they have kept the names that tight-lipped to this point. Nick Saban popped into my head. Chris Peterson popped into my head. Oliver Luck popped into my head. Those are the top names. George Kliavkoff. I wasn't going to be able to get that name out there with a straight face. But I think that for college football, having a CEO is in and of itself a good idea. I am not, never have been, never will be someone that looks at the NFL and says, let's just recreate that product on Saturdays. It's something I have long argued against, lobbied against to whatever power I have, which may not be a ton, but hey, I'm doing what I can. So I don't want those things to be different. I enjoy them separately. That would be like taking two golf courses in the same part of a state and saying, you know what, let's just make these basically carbon copies. Like, no, I want to play one course over here and have the experience with those 18 holes, and I want to go play 18 completely different holes over there the next day. That's how I structure my summers. Different courses every time I play. I structure my fall viewing habits over 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, however many, but it's different, right? It's always different. Saturday, Sunday, always had a different feel, not just because they tap 2 feet in the NFL and 1 foot in college. But the reason I bring up the NFL is Roger Goodell is a plenty polarizing figure. That dude is good at his job. You may think whatever you like. I think he has come down with some horrendous decisions over the years on punishing players for things that happen off the field. There are a lot of examples. I don't need to go into them. I'm sure you already know which ones I'm referring to here and now. On the one hand, we can all collectively look at those things and say, boy, Roger, you screwed up on that one. You know what you can't say? That Roger Goodell runs an ineffective league that's dwindling, that's dying, nope. You can't say any of that. They have been adaptable with rule changes. There was the catch controversy, and then they just kind of went back to what everybody already knew. That was a brief thing. They have been willing to try new things like lengthening the extra point, which I don't think is something you should have in college, but I think has been a really good addition to the NFL. That's just one example. I wish they would ban the tush push. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. But again, it's not like there's a rigidity to what he's done as basically the CEO of the NFL, as the commissioner. And so if you were to apply that to college football, you could have somebody who, yes, would make decisions that people don't like. My question is, are there going to be the sorts of decisions we need from a commissioner and have long needed? So the report, according to Thamel, says that a potential commissioner would deal very heavily in matters of punishment and violations. And I'm not saying that's unimportant. The whole Michigan Connor Stallion situation probably would have gone down differently if you'd had a commissioner in place. I don't know how differently, though, because, there was the Bounty Gate with Sean Payton back in the day when he was with the Saints, and he got suspended for a while, and he's still coaching in the NFL. So, anyway, what I was missing, what I hope for, it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen. I would like for the commissioner to have strong authority with regards to college football scheduling. I want that so badly. I am tired of having schools have all the power to set their own schedules, because I get on here and celebrate the times to an extent, like what I'll talk about later on today's show, instances where we as fans of college football get games we want to watch that make the sport a better product for those that are there in person and those that are watching at home. That wasn't, at least in what Thamel reported, the primary focus of what this potential CEO role could be. But they think they have to have someone ready to go and implemented and running the sport basically by the time this fall season kicks off. Now, I mentioned this earlier, didn't want to forget. I do want to give the Big Ten and the SEC some credit here. They do kind of deserve it, because everything that I have read and seen about this new college football enforcement mechanism, like I talked about on yesterday's show, or the idea of having a CEO here, the Big 12 and the ACC appear to be included in all of these discussions. I know that sounds like the bare minimum. Are we not operating in a world, though, where clearly the bare minimum doesn't have to be done for what we all know is right and good about the sport? Don't we know the Big Ten and SEC are so powerful that they could, if they wanted to, dictate to the ACC and the Big 12, or just outright leave them out of the discussions and say, hey, you're going to get whatever we give you? With regards to playoff expansion, with regards to the new committee, the commission, the CEO, all that sort of stuff. They've at least been nice enough to include them in the talks. It's not a lot, but it's something. It's something. They're not trying to break, at least right now. Those sorts of indicators don't make me think they're trying to break away, which is something I would hate, absolutely hate to see in this sport. But I would love to see a commissioner and see him put together a governing body or structure or group of people or advisors, who could help with college football scheduling, which I have long said behind only realignment is the biggest problem in the sport. Easily behind realignment. It is the thing I like least about college football. I don't like that we killed the Pac-12. I don't like that Texas and Oklahoma nearly killed the Big 12 and don't play in that conference. I don't like the fact that we just lost Kansas and Missouri playing for many, many years from the old Big 12. I don't like any of those things. I like that Texas A&M and Texas is back. That's glorious and grand and wonderful. The benefits do not outweigh the drawbacks, which are substantial with regards to realignment. So that's always been my number one gripe with the sport, and that's with college athletics as a whole. For college football in particular, the scheduling process stinks. So I would love to see this commissioner, whoever it winds up being, step into his role and figure out how to dictate to schools, you don't get to run your schedule anymore. We're going to set this up so that it's much better for fans. That's what I would like to see. What would you like to see? Let me know in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All that good stuff. Actual football talk. Crazy in the month of May, right? No, not crazy at all. Sleeper team in the Big Ten. Here's who it is. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you want to bet college football because you like it, which you probably do if you listen to or watch this show, you can do that. You have got win totals. You have got conference title odds. You've got national championship odds. It's all over there at FanDuel. And you can bet individual games, which are like 3 months away from happening. 3 months. So I can't wait. Can't wait. I know you can't either. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's pretty darn neat. First $5 bet. It hits 200 bonus bets, bang, just like that. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. I haven't done Big Ten power rankings on this show. I think there are more interesting ways to approach the topic. I do know what my top 10 Big Ten teams are. Illinois is number 4. This may sound crazy to some of you, but I've got Penn State number 1, Ohio State number 2, Oregon 3, and yes, Illinois, the Fighting Illini, number 4. I'm not saying this just to gas up everybody in Champaign, but they should feel pretty gassed up going into this year. Did you know that last season, Illinois won 10 games? 10 games! That's just the 5th time in program history an Illini football team has put together a double-digit win season. That's not a feat that you see very often. Brett Bielema was rewarded with an extension through 2030 for his time. That makes plenty of sense. It's, agents own athletic departments and ADs on an annual basis in a variety of sports at schools at all sorts of levels all across the country. That's the way the game is played. But guess what? Brett Bielema just had a really good year. So yeah, he turns that into a contract extension. He's making over $7 million per year. It's hard to say there's pressure on Brett Bielema to win this season because when you're Illinois and you're still trying to get up to the level of, Penn State even, who they were competitive with last year. But are you in Ohio State? Are you in Oregon who just won the Big Ten? No, they went to Oregon last year. They got trounced 38-9. So they weren't really there. But why would I have Illinois 4th? Because who in the world am I putting over them? I think Indiana's lost too much. I think Michigan's 1 year away from being back to what they were in the Jim Harbaugh era, where they were winning Big Ten championships and competing for national championships. They lost a lot from that defense. They still have some good players. I still have some questions about Michigan going into this year. I think they're a good team. I don't know that they're a great team. And by the way, Illinois and Michigan played last year. Illinois is a better football team. So this is I'm not in a place where Illinois in my head has to prove they're better than Michigan. No, they did that last year. They proved they can play with the Wolverines. They just did that. Now they have to prove they can take a step forward. And the exciting part about this, for returning quarterback Luke Altmaier, who's one of the reasons I like him. The Illini, by the way, 3rd in college football with a returning production rate of 76%. When you return over 3/4 of your production from a team that won 10 games last year in the Big Ten, I'm going to like you. I do like Illinois. Their win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, 7.5. We're going to know if they're capable of hitting that over right away. I mean, right away. Because they get a nice little tune-up game against Western Illinois, the Leathernecks, as they are known. And that game won't be close. We will not have a North Dakota State upsetting Colorado thing here. That's not going to be a thing. Here are the next 4 games. And this is where we're going to know if Illinois is ready to play at least somewhat big boy football this year. At Duke, that's a tough game. Duke won 9 games last year. And they've got a new quarterback, Darian Mensah, the Tulane transfer who had a great freshman season. Then they play Western Michigan. All right, that'll be a win. Then they go at Indiana and host USC. If Illinois, who should be a preseason top 25 team, if Illinois comes out of their first 5 games I think 4-1, frankly, should have them ranked. But if they're 5-0, look out rest of the Big Ten, because they might mess around and because of a tiebreaker wind up in the Big Ten championship game. This is not a crazy thought. Again, that's an if. That's an if, because the 5-0 start won't just be, a stretch that gives you a win over Indiana and USC in the head-to-head. It will be a stretch that proves to me and others, including I think themselves, they are capable of playing Big Ten championship caliber football. And we'll know for certain what exactly they're capable of on October 11th at home against Ohio State. I don't think Illinois will be unbeaten at that point, but as long as they have one loss or fewer, that could be a potential college game day weekend. I don't know that that's likely. I don't know if game day has even been to Champaign, Illinois before. But you look at the back half of this schedule for Illinois, and again, if they get through the first half and the Ohio State game and they have one loss and it's to Ohio State, I tell you what, at Washington, Rutgers, Maryland, at Wisconsin, Northwestern. Where's the game that you don't feel like they're capable of winning? It's not on there. Doesn't mean they'll win them all. Washington will be an improved team. Playing at Wisconsin November 22nd, that's never an easy thing to do. Ask Oregon how easy that was last year. They darn near lost that football game. Very easily could have, despite being ranked number 1 and undefeated at the time. So the schedule for Illinois, I think, is really, really interesting. But the question that I have for the Illini is on Brett Bielema and also on Luke Altmaier. Are those two guys ready to step up and elevate Illinois football to a place it has not been, I guess, since last year? But if you think I'm crazy for suggesting this, ponder this question in your mind as a college football fan. How would you feel if you put last year's South Carolina team, or frankly this year's South Carolina team, who's an incredibly popular, understandably so, with Lenore Sellers back there, dude's an absolute baller. How would you feel putting South Carolina in the Big Ten with a schedule like this that does not have Michigan on it, that does not have Oregon on it, that does not have Penn State on it? You miss all of those teams and you get Ohio State at home. That could be one of the biggest games in Memorial Stadium history there in Champaign. I hope regardless of what Illinois' record is, I think it'll be well over 500. The question is, will they have one loss or two? I think they'll have one. But at Duke, home game against Western Michigan, at Indiana, that's a tough stretch. That is a tough, tough stretch. But if you get through those first 6 games with one loss, and Ohio State, who's probably unbeaten at the time, unless they've lost to Texas already, the Buckeyes coming to town, I tell you what, that could be a special day. That's the sort of day that I'd want to go to, just as a college football fan. If you don't know what Memorial Stadium is capable of, why don't you look up some of their biggest upsets over the years? They got plenty of fans. Probably more than you think off the top of your head. And that environment can be really good. Really, really good. And that could be an all-time day. So I'll just let you know publicly, I'm rooting for Illinois to make that game awesome. I want the fans of the Illini to have that chance, to have Ohio State come into town and have a chance to prove what Penn State's been trying to prove for a decade at this point, that they can hang with the Buckeyes, that they can play with them and go out there and beat them. This is a veteran Illinois team. This is a very talented but less experienced Ohio State team. You've got them at home. You will have gotten into a good groove. You keep everybody healthy, go 5-1, 6-0 in the first half of your schedule, which is hard but very doable for Illinois. They're a sleeper team for me in the Big Ten. And by the way, if they're undefeated going into that game, they don't have to win it. They could still wind up in the Big Ten championship game because tiebreakers are super fun. I know we all can't wait to get back to that sort of stuff because that'll mean the season's back. 3 months away, roughly. Roughly 3 months away. So my sleeper team in the Big Ten is the team that I power rate number 4 in the conference, the Illinois Fighting Illini. just as we all always expected. By the way, speaking of the Big Ten, they're playing Notre Dame. Not the team I want to, but yay, kind of yay. By the way, that was the excited yay, Y-A-Y. That was not a Kanye reference in any sense of the term. So Notre Dame and Wisconsin are reportedly going to play at Lambeau Field in 2026. This was supposed to happen in the COVID season. That, of course, didn't take place. And the game got moved to a Sunday, September 6th, because the NFL won't start until the following week. So once again, Notre Dame is going to have a Sunday game because they have one this year when they play Miami, one of the biggest non-conference games of the season in Coral Gables in week 1. So I like half of this. Well, why don't I say 40% of this? The 40% I like is Notre Dame, Wisconsin, for me, as someone who is not a fan of either of those teams, or frankly, any others, because I'm neutral arbiter of all things college football, as those of you who watch the Big Ten squad know. I want to watch Notre Dame, Wisconsin. That's a fun matchup. That's getting me to a television. That's got playoff ramifications. Here's a fun thought exercise. Who is Wisconsin's head coach going to be in that game? We have no idea who the quarterback's going to be. Don't even try to guess that. Who's the head coach going to be? I think if you miss a bowl game 2 years in a row at Wisconsin, I think that's going to lead to Luke Fickell's swift departure from Madison. That's not missing a bowl game last year. I think he's already got him a little bit on the hot seat. You do that again, I don't think that's going over very well. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying if it does, and it's possible their schedule is not exactly a cakewalk, then you're going to see Luke Fickell rumors start to swirl, circulate, form a tornado, and then touchdown in Kansas and send Dorothy to the land of Oz. So I like that Notre Dame and Wisconsin are playing because those are the sorts of brands that I want to see. Going back to my conversation about having a CEO and having him control college football scheduling. I want someone to just take a step back, look at the sport and say, well, where can we get great matchups? Well, Notre Dame, Wisconsin's a great matchup. Now, the 40% I don't like is I would like to see an announcement that Notre Dame and USC will continue to play. Because how in the world are we just going to get rid of one of the oldest rivalries in the sport and then continue to claim we're still playing the sport as it was? I mean, not as it was originally intended, but how can you do that? How can you have a season where you don't have Notre Dame, USC? Just flat out wrong. They're just flat out wrong in my view. So this isn't the Big Ten team I wanted to see Notre Dame have a scheduling announcement for, though I was pleasantly surprised. Oh, Notre Dame, Wisconsin? Sure. That sounds fun. I'll tune in. Let's do it. Okay, good. Get the USC thing figured out. You need to play USC with a far greater sense of urgency than you need to play Wisconsin. And I did have the thought, wait, if they're playing Wisconsin next year, does that mean does that mean this USC thing really is done? I don't know. And it seems to have been initiated from the USC side, which I think stinks. But anyway, here's the other 20% that I don't like. This game's going to be played at Lambeau Field. Okay. I understand why bowl games or playoff games take place at neutral sites. If you're someone that watched the playoff last year, which you probably are if you listen to or watch this show that talks about college football, ask yourself, what was more exciting to watch? The Peach Bowl and that environment, or Notre Dame's home game against Indiana, or the Ohio State crowd against Tennessee, or the Penn State crowd rattling SMU? Which one was better? Yeah, you know the answer. So I like when these teams play. I like big-time non-conference games. College football's affinity for neutral site regular season games boggles the mind. It is one of those traditions. Again, postseason, I get it. Preseason, though, no, not preseason, non-conference, make it a home and home. This isn't hard. You go there, you come here. Or we go there, you know what I mean. We go there, you come here. Done. 2 years, you got a game scheduled. Good to go. Home environments in college football, the pageantry, the tradition, the fans, the traditions, plural sometimes, that fans have on game day, don't take away that opportunity for a fan base, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You're saying to tens of thousands of college football fans every year with these non-conference neutral site games, yeah, screw you guys and whatever you wanted to do that day. We're going to do this for all the wrong reasons. If you want to have corporate sponsors on the game, fine. That doesn't mean you can't have it on campus. Why can't it be the Chick-fil-A? They do the game in Atlanta, the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and they do it like Georgia plays there all the time. Like Georgia played Oregon a few years ago in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Tell me why the Chick-fil-A kickoff game couldn't have taken place in Athens or Eugene. What am I missing? If it's the first game of the year, or if it's early in the season, you got the whole offseason to go put a couple sponsorship things up in the stadium for the game, and then you're going to run the ads on TV, which is where most of the money comes from anyway. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we doing? Stop getting rid of home games. And while I'm on the subject, in the college football playoff, the teams that have the best regular seasons should always be rewarded with home playoff games. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.